Smithville Board of Aldermen meeting is now called to order. Please stand and join me in the pledge. First item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Alderman Atkins.
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Also, Alderman Hartman is absent today. He's not just in the bathroom still. Next item on the agenda is committee reports, planning and zoning. John was a little late, so I'll take that one. Most of the items for planning and zoning are on the agenda for tonight. One of the items was pulled, so it's not on this agenda. We do have a tenant finish permit for a brewery in town, and housing starts are fairly slow, so not a lot of permits there. Zero. We're at zero for the year. Well, it's slow. Next item on the agenda is finance committee. I'll cover that one. Well, unless Alderman Russell, you want to cover that one?
I can cover it, Mayor.
Okay.
So we had the finance committee meeting on Valentine's Day. Now check, okay. We went over the vendor payments in excess of $7,500 or $7,500. Bank reconciliation update for the first quarter of fiscal year. Outstanding checks listing, which has gotten a lot shorter than it has been this quarter. Thank you very much, Stephen and your team. We did a 2023 first quarter update, and 2023 we discussed the certificates of participation COP update, which you'll be hearing more about later in this year. That's it.
Yeah, and Stephen, also on bank reconciliation, you guys are doing great. Thank you on that. And interest was a big number, so
Yes.
investments are doing well. Next item is committee reports, also Lake Fest Founders Day update, Alderman Russell.
Thank you, Mayor. We met last Wednesday. There's still a lot of prep going on for the whole festival. Generator update, dunk tank, table and chairs, t-shirts, parking, the normal things you get together. We do have already 38 vendors and 12 food trucks already on the lineup. So that's a big, big turnout. We need to discuss a sign for Founders Day. That's one thing we will need to do. And parking lot access on Bridge Street and across the bridge on the west side, and then city employees for volunteering. The thing we'll need to discuss on our side. That it?
Parking, are you talking about like north of the museum, or where in particular?
North of the museum and that empty lot. They've used that in the past.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's private property. They could reach out to, I'm sure they can reach out to the owners. In the city park, is that still holding water, Matt? It's not really a good way to park in there either. Yeah. All right, thank you. City administrators report. Ms. Wagner, do you have anything to add to your report?
I do. I want to highlight a few things in the report, but I do have a couple things to add that have come in since we completed this. One thing I wanted to let you all know, at our next meeting on March 7th, there will be an item that we'll have to have as an emergency ordinance. We received a letter from Spire related to their proposed increases in rates. And we were reminded that anytime a utility increases their rates by 7% or more, and they notify us of that change in rates, we are required by ordinance to either change to lower our gross receipt tax. So we have a 5% gross receipt tax on all utilities. And basically, this is a Hancock Amendment item. We either have to lower our rate so that we maintain the same amount of revenues, or vote to leave the rate the same at that 5% and maintain the level of revenues, but we have to take action on that. And staff would recommend that we leave it at that 5% because we got this information from Spire and we want to be consistent with all of the utilities. Plus, it has an impact on the budget if we have any reduction to that amount. So we'll be bringing that we received that letter from them and we have a short window in which we have to make those changes. So we'll bring those forward with a recommendation. And I've had the conversation with the mayor. He will sponsor it as an emergency. So first and second reading next time to maintain that 5% rate. Any questions on that? They are right at 7% increase. So yeah,
thank you.
and that's Spire, but it keeps our gross receipts that we pass on to them at 5%. And then I also wanted to note that Stephen has been working over the last couple of weeks, putting information together. We've received reports and information from the county assessor's office, and we have property tax information from Marketplace. So he's been working to put together letters that will go out, letters with checks that will go out to taxing jurisdictions later this week that include the increment that are due those taxing jurisdictions as part of the Marketplace TIF. So when those taxes are paid, they're paid to the county and then they're remitted back to us. And the piece that's supposed to go back, part of that is captured and stays for the Marketplace TIF project. And then a portion of those go back to the taxing jurisdictions based on the way that the TIF was structured. The taxing jurisdictions include the school district, the fire protection district, the library district, kind of ambulance district. What else have I forgotten? Clay County receives a portion as well. Those checks total about $108,000, correct? So those will go out this week to those various jurisdictions. So wanted to let you all know of those.
Cynthia, what's the number for the school district?
Probably about 50.
I
let's say
think,
60,000.
yeah, I think it was
55
between
last
60 and
year.
65, I think. So yeah, 1,000,
Okay.
yeah.
Is that what we're anticipating yearly, or is that kind of just this one time and then it'll start increasing?
Last year was 55. Yeah, in the next year, we'll capture the personal property on the dentist's office that they didn't, because that came in late. But other than that, there's only one open spot.
And do we know if that number is kind of in line with what the original projections were, or are we higher?
I know Megan's here too, and I think the original projections are based off Heritage Tractor. so-
Right. So it's a little bit difficult to, and that's, if you'll remember last year in the summer, we provided a report and we want to annually provide that information so we can do a real good analysis on that. But as the mayor said, those numbers are really difficult to make that comparison because there was a different anchor there. Or a different additional tenant.
Megan is still in law school, I think. 2017. You're out, okay.
I did want to highlight a couple other things in the report, just so you all are aware. Again, another item that we'll be recommending as an emergency ordinance. As we've been preparing for the TIF process related to 110 Smithville, tomorrow evening, we have a TIF Commission education meeting. As we were, as staff and working with Megan, looking at the Code of Ordinances, it actually still reflects TIF Commission composition as outlined prior to the change in population information from Clay County and the fact that they changed their charter. So those changes, is that accurate assessment there? Triggered a change. If you guys will recall, we had a conversation last year. There had initially been appointment of 6 TIF commissioners from the city. The change in the way the state statute is applied because of the population of Clay County and the form of government of Clay County, that composition changed. Our Code of Ordinances still reflects the old composition. So before the TIF Commission meets late in March, we need to make that change to be reflective with that. So that was one more kind of, it's a housekeeping issue of just making sure that we've got that taken care of. And then there was a question in public comment at our last meeting regarding business licensing. Staff is reviewing that information and we anticipate being able to provide some follow-up information at the March 7th meeting, potentially in city administrator's report, but we'll see if there's additional information to provide there in that manner. I believe, Mayor, that is all of the additional information I had there. I do want to highlight also and call attention to you all. There is communication from the school district related to the upcoming TIF commission meeting and the TIF project. Our bond counsel is also, or excuse me, our economic development attorneys have also received that information. If you have any questions, you can contact me or Megan on that as well. Mayor, that is my report.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, moving forward. Next item on the agenda is number 6. Alderman Yulidol.
Motion to approve bill number 2974-23, repealing and replacing section 100.220, second reading.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, please call roll.
Alderman Chevalier.
Aye.
Alderman Shipley.
Aye.
Alderman Yulidol.
Aye.
Alderman Russell.
Aye.
Alderman Atkins.
Aye.
5-0.
Motion carries. Ms. Wagner, please read the bill.
An ordinance repealing ordinance section 100.220 regarding general penalties and enacting in its place new ordinance section 100.220 regarding general penalties.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is number 7. Alderman Yulidol.
Motion to approve bill number 2975-23, repealing and replacing section 205.1810, second reading.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Atkins seconds. Thank you. Any discussion? Clerk, please call roll.
Alderman Chevalier. Alderman Yulidol.
Aye.
Alderman Atkins.
Aye.
Alderman Russell.
Aye.
Alderman Shipley.
Aye.
5-0.
Motion carries. Ms. Wagner, please read the bill.
An ordinance repealing ordinance sections 205.1800 and 205.1810 regarding use, consumption, or possession of marijuana and controlled substances and enacting in its place new ordinance sections 205.1800 and 205.1810 regarding use, consumption, or possession of marijuana and controlled substances.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is number 8. Alderman Yulidol.
Motion to approve bill number 2976-23, electric fence for industrial zones, second reading.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Atkins, gotcha. Any discussion? Clerk, please call roll.
Alderman Russell.
Aye.
Alderman Atkins.
Aye.
Alderman Chevalier.
Aye.
Alderman Shipley.
Aye.
Alderman Yulidol.
Aye.
5-0.
Motion carries. Ms. Wagner, please read the bill.
An ordinance amending section 525.040 of the Code of Ordinances regulating electric fences.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is number 9. And the applicant's on Zoom, right? Linda, I can't see who all the attendees are, participants. Can you hit the participant list?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. All right. First, I need a motion to approve in a second before we can do public comment. Alderman Yulidol.
Motion to approve bill number 2977-23, conceptual plan, Fairview Crossing North, first reading.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Alderman Shipley, thank you. Public comment, we have one. Constance Scott is here from Hills of Shannon. You there? Okay. Sorry, couldn't see in the back. As with before, name and address, and you have 3 minutes. If you need more time, let me know.
Constance Scott, 308 Killarney Lane. Mr. Mayor, Alderman, good evening and thank you for letting me speak tonight. As you all know me by now, I'm the president of the HOA. Tonight, you're voting on the conceptual plan regarding the development at 169 Highway and Commercial. And I want to start by saying these two statements can be true at one time. We welcome the development of lots 1 through 3 at the corner of 169 and Commercial. And we have concerns regarding the developments of lots 4 through 6 at 169 in commercial. These two statements are true. Our concerns started out focused primarily on the water flow and watershed runoff. Our questions about the water have been answered for now. However, focus remains primarily still on the fact that the only current designated design for privacy is based solely on a 30-foot utility easement. There seems to be a lackadaisical mindset that we should just accept the 30-foot utility easement as good enough. And yet, it's not. A utility easement is not a guarantee of continued privacy. They never have been, and they never will be. In fact, when I was visiting Overland Park this last weekend, I marveled at the amount of trees that had been cut for utility purposes. Trees that were clearly nowhere near the work that they were doing, but one less thing a utility company would have to deal with. While we have been in a good dialogue with Mr. Kreese, the current property owner and acting developer, and he has made a few suggestions for landscape design or a natural screen barrier, nothing currently proposed has been formalized or finalized. I want to be clear, we welcome these ideas and suggestions, but currently the only solid fact remains there is no guarantee that privacy will be preserved by relying on this utility easement or the goodwill of utility companies. There are just too many uncertainties. What this board proposes is that the idea that have been suggested regarding the landscaping or natural barrier be added to the conceptual plan and enforced if Mr. Kreese decides to sell. If these proposed ideas for privacy, which benefit both the homeowners and the businesses, means that the vote needs to be deferred tonight, then I am humbly asking you, Aldermen, to please defer this vote until we can get the privacy concerns sorted. Again, we thank Mr. Kreese for the opportunity to speak and to hear our concerns. However, while we do encourage the growth of Smithville, our main concern is for the loss of privacy, the homeowners of Hills of Shannon, and the uncertainty that remains while relying on a utility easement for a privacy barrier. Thank you.
Thank you. Jack, correct me if I'm wrong. If this is approved and then before they build anything, they still have to come back in for review of landscaping and everything else around the building process, correct? Like we've done with attic storage and others.
Yeah, each building will have to have its own site plan review through the planning commission. And then at that time, the landscape buffering is reviewed.
So regardless of who owns the property, when it comes in, that's still going to be reviewed by planning and zoning, just like we've done with every other.
Anytime
Building.
we build a commercial building, new construction, it comes through planning commission to review those things.
Any other questions while Jack's up here? Or any questions for the applicant since he is online?
I do.
Yes.
I have a question about the 30-foot, easement. And I guess it goes back over to constant. The 30-foot, if that's not sufficient, what do you propose would be sufficient?
Mr. Kreese had been proposing more of a natural screen barrier, such as conifer trees going in that build up nicely and will help block the sound and any other light pollutions or anything like that.
Okay, and that was fine with you?
We are very open to that, yes.
Okay, and you had mentioned that in the last meeting, you had mentioned that you'd be willing to meet with anybody to go walk the property. Did anyone take you up on that?
Mr. Atkins and I had started talking about that, but then the weather went south and I haven't had the ability to reach back out to him.
Good, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions for?
I guess I want to get back to the 30-foot barrier. I mean, if we got the proposed ideas to mitigate this, I mean, can we consider that now and just add that as part of this plan? I mean, can we amend it to include that? Or does it have to go back through planning and zoning again?
Not on a, usually not on a conceptual, usually it's on the site plan.
There are two aspects of it. I don't know the page number. I apologize. But in the document you have, the conceptual plan document, I think it's the last page, maybe the second to last page. There's actually a landscaping plan identified in it. And that covers the minimum. But if there are changes between what that plan shows and what the site plan for each building requires, they have to do the higher of those two. Whichever's more.
I think the site plan process is a more appropriate process, but also
Yeah.
we don't allow overhead utilities, Jack, correct?
Correct.
They have to be buried, so they're not gonna be cutting tops of trees off to run power lines. It's
No,
all
I
gonna be
mean,
underground in the
If they
road.
go underground, they can still kill trees too,
But
right?
for this type of development, they're gonna go on the front of the buildings and under the road, not behind the buildings
And let
typically.
me clarify as well, this is also a drainage easement. So
Yeah.
it's got a utility easement and a drainage easement, so it's where the water runs.
Yeah, you don't really wanna put you. Yeah, cause then you have to get other DNR requirements, right? If you dig into the ditch,
Well, and yes, and there are other problems.
yeah. So and that's Jack's department would say, hey, put the utilities on the front. Typically, right?
Right. And it depends on what Evergy wants for electric. Because the street is in the center. Usually, doesn't mean it won't happen. Usually utilities try to go there. So they can go under the road and serve both sides without having to run a line down the back of both sides.
And for
But
the,
that's usual.
yeah, and also they have the opportunity when new build to put in the conduit for things like. United Fiber and different Spectrum and all those. And that's what they did with some of the newer construction is they ran conduit before they put concrete down, so they didn't have to try to run it after the fact.
Depending on, yes,
Typically, most,
Evergy does that almost every
Yeah.
time they can.
yeah, most of the
Because their
utilities
lines are
now
bigger.
want to do conduit ahead of time.
So yeah, I guess my main thing is just making sure that, you know, that is in the site plan for sure, right? That this gets addressed and make sure that it meets what, you know, they're looking for.
Right.
So, okay.
Any other questions? Shane, any comments? Or question? For this one? Oh, sorry, I do.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, it is number 9. Yeah, Randall Palmer's on here too. Sorry.
Oh. Go ahead. You can
Palmer.
let them.
Go ahead. Yep.
That's a 30-foot easement.
Please state your name and address for the,
I'm sorry, my name is Randy Palmer, 14702 Shamrock Way in the hills of Shannon. Directly affected by this new development. What I just stepped off there was 30 feet. And that's how close the dumpsters are going to be to my backyard. It's how close the trucks are going to be to my backyard. I'm just opposing to lots 4 through 6. Lots 1 through 3, I appreciate the business coming in. We do need the business. With all due respect, Mr. Shane. The frontage length, I think they're supposed to be 300 feet. But along with the property behind my house. They say that that's been zoned commercial the entire time. But it's never been used and they're going to use it now. So we're gonna, oh, I wish I would have wrote this down. We're going to shorten the 300-foot frontage down to 100 feet or 150 feet to satisfy this development coming in. I'm so lost. And then I think the only reason I have the ability to speak up here is because of the road access that's coming out onto Commercial Street, if I'm not mistaken. Where the driveway is going to be coming out, it's going to be coming out on concrete and blacktop. It's not suitable for the street to be entered and exited from that area. The blacktop is in poor condition. The concrete is in good condition. So the city will have obligations to fix that blacktop as traffic comes in and out of that area. I've said a lot. I've said 15 minutes worth of speeches up here and I just can't fit it all into one. I've only got 3 minutes. And if you guys, if anybody would love a dumpster in their backyard 30 feet away from their house, let me know. I'll come bang around one night for you. And evergreens, evergreens isn't going to stop that noise. Like I say, I would like 4 through 6 lots to be denied or hold off until we come up to some satisfactory buffer. And with the plan of 2030 that the city of Smithville has put into place, lots 4 through 6 is going against about 80% of everything written in the plan for 2030. Let's stick to the plan of 2030, keep Smithville a small town, keep the buffer zones in place. Mr. Shane has a lot of property to build on towards the south. Like I say, I welcome 1 through 3, but Mr. Shane has a lot of development to do towards the south. 1 acre is not going to kill anybody. Let's keep Smithville a small town. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Crease.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Shane Crease. My address is 13530 Mount Olivet Road, Smithville, Missouri. As stated, I'm the applicant. I want to clarify a few points. First of all, the project was approved unanimously by the Planning and Zoning Commission last week. Regarding the 30-foot easement, that meets the city requirements. This has been a commercial site for some time, regardless if that back area was developed or not, and much longer than any of these subdivisions have been in existence. The other thing, the way it sits currently, I could put a 40,000 square foot building on that site and it could back right up to those homes as well, and we wouldn't have to be in this situation. So I'm trying to do what meets the comprehensive plan. The design has gone through and tried to thoughtfully think of all these things. I understand the residents' concern. I've spoke to the homeowners association. I've offered solutions that are outside of what's required. And I will do my best to try to provide the screening, this buffering to have minimal impact on the homeowners. With that said, I really appreciate your consideration, and that's really all I have.
Thank you. Any additional questions from the board? Clerk, please call roll.
Alderman Atkins,
Aye.
Alderman Shipley,
Aye.
Alderman Russell,
No.
Alderman Yulidol,
Aye.
Alderman Chevalier.
Aye.
4-1.
Motion carries. Ms. Wagner, please read the bill.
An ordinance approving a rezoning and conceptual zoning plan for Fairview Crossing North on certain lands located in the city of Smithville, Missouri, under the authority granted by the Code of Ordinances of the city of Smithville, Missouri.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is number 10. Oh, okay. Alderman Yulidol.
Motion to approve bill number 2978-23, rezoning northeast corner of Second Creek and Loman Road from A1 to R1B and R3. First reading.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you. Alderman Shipley seconds. First public comment is Ms. Loman. As you've done this before, state your name for the record, address. You have 3 minutes. If you need additional time, please let me know in advance.
Thank you, Mayor and Alderman. I'm Roberta Lohman. I'm at 16251 Loman Road in Smithville here. I would like to talk once again that the rezoning of the land that I had sold back in January, I am asking the alderman and the mayor to please do not rezone it as R3. R1, single-family homes is what was agreed to. The land would have never been sold had it not been agreed upon with Realtor, Alderman, partner of LMW, Mr. Hartman, it would have never been sold without the understanding that it was only going to be single-family homes, $400,000 to $500,000. So I'm asking you to please do not rezone it as R3, but as R1, which is what was going to be developed at that point in time when the contract was signed. There's a simple solution. None of us would be here, and I would not have been to all the meetings had we just proceeded with it being resold or developed as the single-family homes. So I am asking for your consideration. And Mr. Mayor, at the planning and zoning, I handed out the plat that I think you had a question for Mr. Hendricks at the time, which is the plat that Mr. Hartman had told me at the time of the sale. This was approved by Mr. Hendricks, which has since 10 or 11 acres been sold to the Hildebrands. I'm not opposing that at all. That's not ever been something that I brought up, but I wanted to clarify once again, the plat that I had provided planning and zoning and to the alderman was the plat that was given to me on the third contract that I signed, which was for the homes that were to be built as outlined in the contract that was signed to $400,000 to $500,000 with this type of layout. I appreciate your time. Thank you again. And I pray that you would give some consideration to pass the rezoning as an R1 and not R3.
Thank you. Christine Bunch.
Christine Bunch, 18608 Primrose Street. I'm just gonna also talk about that, yes, nobody is opposing rezoning agriculture when you want to develop to single-family home, which is in our ordinances R1B. So there's no opposition for that. The opposition is in multifamily. There is no need for R3. In the lieu of private litigation, I would recommend postponing the voting for R3. Go ahead and zone it agricultural to R1. Nobody's opposing single family and start there. So I don't know if that's going to change anything tonight. I don't feel heard. I don't think you're hearing even the former landowner, and that makes me really sad as a community. You guys talk about positive things and small town vibes, and it's just really sad watching what's happening. I just ask you not to do that. Rezoning to R3. Go ahead and do it agricultural to single family. I understand there's a plan, but just consider if you were in her shoes, or if that was your mom or your neighbor or your grandma or somebody that this was happening to, and you had a contract, a written contract that was a legal binding contract, and it said no multifamily and to only build single family 400 to 500,000. Put yourself in their shoes. Somebody's got to advocate for them, and I hope it's you guys tonight.
Thank you. And I believe the applicant's here too. I think I saw Clayton somewhere earlier. Oh, he's over there. Go ahead, Cynthia. Okay. Any questions, discussion from the board? Yeah, like I said, the applicant is here if you have questions as well. Clerk, please call roll.
Alderman Shipley,
Aye.
Alderman Atkins,
Aye.
Alderman Chevalier.
Aye.
Alderman Yulidol,
Aye.
Alderman Russell,
No.
4-1.
Motion carries. Ms. Wagner, please read the bill.
An ordinance changing the zoning classifications or districts of certain lands located in the city of Smithville, Missouri, and entering into a development agreement.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is number 11. Alderman Yulidol.
Motion to approve resolution 1190, agreement with Jeffrey Place, labor law attorney.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Alderman Shipley. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving resolution 1190, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is number 12. Alderman Yulidol.
Motion to approve resolution 1191 reimbursement of expenses related to COP projects.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving a resolution 1191, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Any additional public comment? No? Any new business? That'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second? Thank you. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Stand adjourned. Thank you.